Hi, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I'm going to be speaking with you today on a shock to the heart, marital defibrillation. I'm sorry, I have a hard time saying that word. Marital defibrillation. It struck me this past week what a powerful message we have when people come in and they're stuck, they're locked in battle, they have hopelessness, and probably 95% of the people who come to see us, the marriage is still alive. It might be hanging by a thread. They might hate each other. The only thing that's keeping them together is the children. But it's still breathing. Unfortunately, probably 5% of marriages get to us and it is deceased by the time it reaches us. And we can use those defibrillators all we want to, and it's not going to resurrect that couple. So, but 95% of the couples, the vast majority, we apply the shock paddles and we shock a marriage back to life. I want to give the Wikipedia definition of defibrillation, and it says it consists of delivering a therapeutic dose of electrical energy to the heart with a device called a defibrillator. So I thought that was a great definition of what we try to do, because we tried to deliver a therapeutic dose of healing electric energy to the heart with a device called a family tree and a therapist and a feedback session and a paradigm shift. Stephen Covey said, if you want to help somebody quickly, then change how they think. And almost every couple that I've ever worked with has come in with a GPS system that's set for some other continent. It certainly isn't set for the Indianapolis area. And they come in with their GPS just reading wrong, leading them around in the dark. And what we try to do is issue them GPS systems that are unfailingly accurate, and we'll get them to where they want to go. If you have a wrong map or an incorrect GPS system, you are lost. You're a lost soul. And what most people do when they come in is they don't understand what marriage is. They think that marriage is about their partner and about their marriage. And marriage isn't about marriage. It seems like a silly thing to say. Marriage and the pain from it is really all about your childhood. And whatever you grew up with, you're either going to marry the opposite of that, a very small percentage do. The vast majority, you're going to marry somebody who has very similar traits as the person or persons who hurt you the most. So what we try to do as people come in and they're adversarial and they're reactive and they're defensive, we try to shift how they think. So instead of becoming adversaries, they become therapy buddies. And I'm going to give you 4 examples of couples who came in with wrong GPS system, wrong paradigm, and thrashing about at each other. Both of them feeling victimized, or one of them feeling like the bad guy and the other one the victim. And we were able to instill a proper, healthy, accurate paradigm that changed everything for them. One was a recent couple, and they, like many couples, come in, and how we start our process, whoever called in or emailed in, we tell the other person what was said, and hopefully that's just a sentence or two, and then we turn the meeting over to the person who didn't get the sentence or two, and we say, why don't you start us off, Joe? And then I listen to Joe. And in this case, the wife had sent in some information and actually spoken with my assistant. And but she sort of took hold of the meeting in the beginning and started us. He seemed a little bit more introverted. So she started us off and listed, probably took 7 or 8 minutes, and listed various issues. And he sat there quietly, somberly. Then it was his turn, and he wasn't yelling or screaming or cussing or anything. He just was talking about what he thought were the marital issues. But girlfriend just was very defensive, and whatever he would say, she'd be, no, let me set the record straight. And so what we've learned through the years is it doesn't matter what your spouse thinks. You know, just listen. Just listen. Figure out their truth, their roadmap. Understand their woundedness. If they're inaccurate with their betrayals, to shift them off of that, overpowering them and criticizing them is not going to lead to them saying, thank you for pointing out, you know, my flaws. You're right, I'm wrong. That ain't going to happen. But if you will listen and get them talking from the wounded little kid in their heart, it'll become evident to the therapist and to the person speaking and to the spouse if there's some distortion, and there always is, some projection that someone is making due to their childhood wounds onto their spouse. So that will come out. I gave my little, you know, there are no victims in marriage speech, and I talked a lot about shame. The reason that couples are defensive is because they feel shame. And shame I'll define as just being overly sensitive to being criticized. So I love the look of awareness that I see in people's eyes, because I do. I see light bells, you know, light bells. I see bells going off and light bulbs going off, and I can see it in their eyes, to where they get, you know, I'm in the right marriage, and I'm not a victim, and there's no bad guys, and we're gonna slowly study this dynamic, and we're going to figure it out. We're going to put together a jigsaw puzzle with an expert's help, and I don't have to point fingers, and I don't have to be right. I can listen and hear and figure out and make a study of who my spouse is. So I hope that couple is able to hear. I hope they have ears to hear this paradigm of you know, this is what marriage is. Marriage is your childhood, and there are no victims, and it's all good. So that's the shock paddle that we apply, and I've just seen miraculous things. Once a couple came in, and she had an appointment with an attorney to file for divorce later in the morning, and within 10 minutes, she shifted out of being adversarial and disgusted and full of contempt, and her whole demeanor was soft and sweet like a little girl, and there was no judgment toward her husband. And all I said was, we all marry the right person, and what they are is they're a very cleverly disguised version of the people that hurt us the most. And there was, she had just found out that her husband had a sexual addiction, and she didn't know this, and this grossed her out because, as it turned out, her father was this horrible world-class sexual addict who'd done a lot of damage and, you know, even gone to jail. And as soon as she heard that, boom, light went on. And the shock paddles took a marriage that was headed for divorce that day and shifted it into a marriage that's very safe, very solid, very happy today. That was about 2 years ago, and they're doing great. And it's because they got the defibrillator applied. So another couple, you know, the first time people come to therapy, it doesn't always take. You got to be ready. You've got to be ready. The type of couples that we can help, they are both motivated to work on themselves because they see the dysfunction. They see how broken they are, and it disturbs them. So somebody that motivated, we can do a lot with. They're both teachable. When we say something true and something powerful, it pierces the mind, it pierces the heart, it turns on the lights. The third thing is they have to have a lot of pain. You know, healing oneself, recovery is basically re-engineering your personality from the ground up. And that is not easy for a 45-year-old or a 50-year-old. Trust me about that. It's just not. So the fourth thing is you have to be able to trust. Some people are trust damaged, and they really don't know how to trust their spouse, and they do not know how to trust a therapist. They just can't. And then the final thing is follow through. A typical client couple that works with us, in the first year they'll maybe read 10, 12 books. We give them a lot of books to read because we're trying to change how they think. We're trying to change their paradigm. They have to understand shame. They have to understand abandonment issues. They have to understand assertiveness and boundaries, and how to listen better, how to be non-reactive. They need to understand sexual addiction if they have that. So there's many things to learn when it comes to recovery. So I've got 4 or 5 couples now who the first time through they weren't ready, and they didn't really accomplish much. This particular couple came, and I got the shock paddles out, and it didn't work. They were like, "That all you got?" You know. The shock paddle works when people are ready, and people aren't always ready. So sometimes they have to go out into life and they have to have problems, they have to have trouble. And so this couple comes back a year later and they're knee deep in a marital crisis. And I get the paddle out, the same one I used the year before, said the same thing. And this time, wow, I get it, boom, changed my life. Somebody once asked me what my success rate was. And I told them in really nice words that it was a really stupid question, because we give the same message with the same passion to every couple that comes in here, every individual who comes in here. We deliver the same message, but how much it affects them is really up to them. So I can work with one couple, and you know, they flee the building, they get defensive, they're argumentative, they're disrespectful, they're contemptuous not only of their spouse but also of their therapist. And they go and say, you know, that Mark Smith down at Family Tree, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then the next couple comes in, I say the exact same thing with the exact same energy, and it totally changes their lives forever. And it saves their marriage, and it impacts children for generations, because they have understood one of the foundational mysteries of life, and that is, what is love? What is marriage? What does it mean? How can it be a healing, positive thing instead of something that leads to hopelessness and destroyed relationships? So yeah, that couple is doing amazing work, both of them, and they're re-engineering their marriage as they both re-engineer their personalities from the ground up. Another couple that came 4 or 5 years ago, and they weren't ready because sometimes when we do this psychological surgery, I tell people, when you come in and we give you feedback, we can use a scalpel, or I can go out back and get the jackhammer. It makes no difference to me. I'm equally talented with both implements. So sometimes, even with the scalpel, I'll cut past somebody's psychological defense, and underneath there's shame, and there's pain, and you find out your parents aren't who you thought they were, and you aren't who you thought you were, and you feel bad. I don't try to make people feel bad, but if you have shame, if you add truth, you're going to feel bad. You're going to feel bad about yourself. So again, this couple comes back 3 years later in the middle of a marital crisis, and when you show up to home and your bags are packed and you're told don't even bother to come in, that will shake a man, and that will bring about an opportunity for growth and humility and insight. And when people are ready and their walls are down and they have ears and they're teachable, they can really learn amazing things. So got the shock paddles out and applied those, and the second time around that marriage came to life, and it is doing well. Marriages don't turn into bliss and go back to enmeshment where you're newly married. Everybody knows that. What I tell people is, if you do your work and you get out of that victim mentality, what you can hope for is to build something that works, that has more windows of heaven than it has windows of hell. That's about as good as it gets, folks. It works, and it has more windows of heaven than it does of hell. That ain't bad. That'll get the job done. So I do encourage you, if your marriage is floundering, if you're unhappy, if you're not getting your needs met, if there's abuse in the relationship, if there's an addiction that sort of pulls your spouse away from you, I encourage you to come in. You would be shocked how effective marital therapy can be if we get out these defibrillators and go to work. It can help a marriage that's on the brink of extinction and bring it back to life, and then your best 20 years of marriage is ahead of you. Your best 20 years of life is ahead of you, not behind you. We encourage a process of what we call recovery. And recovery, everybody knows what a recovering alcoholic is. It's just somebody who admits that they're an alcoholic and they quit drinking and they go to AA. Well, there are truths about you. There are issues that you have. Maybe you're too passive. Maybe you're too controlling. Maybe you're addicted to work. Maybe you're addicted to sex. Maybe you're defensive. Maybe you're compulsively neat. Maybe you have anxiety. There's a lot of things that can be true about people, and it's okay to have faults, and it's okay to admit them. So what we try to do is to get people to have a lot of epiphanies and a lot of insight into who they are and where they came from. And your best critic, of course, is not your therapist, it's your spouse. Your spouse is your finest critic, because they know all your picadillos, as Robin Williams said in Good Will Hunting. They know the good stuff on you. They got the goods on you. And if you'll listen, and you'll not judge, and you'll realize you're not a victim, and you know you married the right person, and you get rid of the back door. Quit looking out the back door and thinking, what would it be like out there again? And I warn my people, and I tell them, you can get divorced and have your kids half time and have half your money or less, but you're just going to pick the same woman all over again, and you'll have to do this work anyway. So if you can do it now, if you both can do the work, then let's fix this. Let's build a bridge here, because your best 20 years can be ahead of you. It just takes two people who can do the work. Two people who are highly motivated because they know who they are and they're disturbed by it. Two people who have flexible, open, teachable hearts. Two people who embrace their pain instead of burying it under alcohol or pills or work or even depression. Two people who, when they hear truth, they can embrace it, and they know if somebody knows what they're doing. A lot of times people come to therapy and they have very little faith in the healing power of therapy, I can tell. But I get the shock paddles out and I give it a couple whacks on the chest. All of a sudden they're looking up and saying, man, this guy's got the power. This guy can help us. You know, and they begin to trust the process of recovery and therapy. So recovery works, therapy works. If you need your marriage shocked back to life, get in touch with us. My phone number's on the screen. My email address is on the screen. You don't have to be in the Indianapolis area. You can be in Timbuktu, because Skype works fabulously well for therapy. You just have to have a good internet connection, and it's just like you're in the room. It's very effective, and I recommend it. So thank you very much for watching today. Just encourage you to embrace the pain in your marriage, and be open to getting shocked with truth that'll change your life forever. Thank you.